This is Iao Valley, a place of breathtaking beauty, a sanctuary of emerald peaks and life-giving water. Today, it stands as a symbol of Maui's natural splendor, a destination for peaceful reflection and sightseeing. But this tranquil stream once ran red with blood. These silent cliffs once echoed with the clash of traditional weapons and the deafening roar of a new, terrifying kind of warfare. This was the site of Kepaniwai, the damming of the waters, a battle so brutal it choked the river with the bodies of the slain, and so pivotal it would change the course of Hawaiian history forever. This is the story of ambition, revenge, technology, and the bloody birth of a kingdom. The conflict was a clash of titans, a struggle defined by the powerful figures who commanded the fates of thousands. Understanding their roles is essential to grasping the forces that converged on this sacred valley. In the late 1700s, the Hawaiian Islands were not a unified nation, but a collection of independent, often warring kingdoms. Hawaiian society was a highly stratified system of ali'i, or chiefs, who were believed to be descended from the gods, kahuna, a class of priests and experts, and the maka'ainana, or commoners. This social order was governed by a complex set of sacred laws known as the kapu system. Power was seized and held through warfare, a constant and ritualized part of life. The death of a high chief almost always triggered a period of violent instability. This was not merely a result of ambition, but a structural component of the political system. A custom known as kala'ina required a new ruler to redistribute the lands and titles of the kingdom, a process that inevitably led to civil war as lesser chiefs battled to secure or improve their positions. This was an era of legendary warriors and ambitious rulers, each vying for supremacy in a landscape defined by conflict. By the 1780s, one chief had risen to dominate the archipelago, Kahekili II, the formidable king of Maui. His name, meaning the thunder, was a fitting title for a ruthless and brilliant tactician. He was known as a pahupu, or cut-in-two warrior, with the right side of his body tattooed solid black from head to toe in honor of the thunder god Kanehekeli. Through brutal conquest and treacherous political maneuvering, he had built an empire, controlling Maui, Molokai, Lanai, and Oahu. His influence, through his brother, extended even to the island of Kauai. Only one major island remained beyond his grasp: Hawaii. On that island, a new power was rising. His name was Kamehameha. Born under the sign of a comet, his destiny as a great unifier was foretold by prophecy. A legend claimed that whoever could move the sacred Naha stone, a massive volcanic rock weighing over 2.5 tons, would rule all the islands. As a young man, Kamehameha not only moved the stone, but overturned it, solidifying his claim to greatness in the eyes of his people. Following the death of his uncle, King Kalaniʻopuʻu, Kamehameha engaged in a brutal civil war, eventually securing control of his home island. He was a brilliant warrior, but also a shrewd and forward-thinking leader who understood that the world and the nature of warfare itself was changing. The arrival of European explorers like Captain James Cook in 1778 did not create the conflict between these two titans, but it poured fuel on a fire that was already burning. The introduction of foreign technology, muskets, cannons, and iron, transformed the scale and lethality of these traditional power struggles, turning dynastic rivalries into something far more destructive. In 1790, two American trading ships, the Eleanora and the Fair American, arrived in Hawaiian waters. They were captained by Simon Metcalf and his son Thomas. Simon Metcalf was a man of harsh temperament and violent impulses. After a high chief on Hawaii Island, Kamehameha, was flogged for a minor offense, a profound insult in Hawaiian culture, Metcalf sailed to Maui. There, after a small boat was stolen and a watchman killed, he exacted a horrific revenge. Luring the people of Olowalu to his ship under the promise of peaceful trade, he unleashed a full broadside of cannon and musket fire. Over 100 men, women, and children were killed in what became known as the Olowalu Massacre. Metcalf's brutality set in motion a fateful chain of events. The chief he had flogged, Kamehameha, swore revenge on the next foreign ship he encountered. That ship was the Fair American, captained by Metcalf's own son. Kamehameha's warriors attacked, killing the entire crew, save for one man, a Welsh sailor named Isaac Davis. The ship, with its cannon, muskets, and ammunition, was captured and delivered to Kamehameha. Meanwhile, when the Eleanora returned to Hawaii Island, its boatswain, John Young, was detained ashore by Kamehameha's men. Simon Metcalf, unaware of his son's fate and frustrated by Young's absence, sailed away, abandoning him. In a single stroke of fate, Kamehameha now possessed not only a modern arsenal, but also the two men who knew how to use it. The technological shift in Hawaiian warfare was not the result of a simple purchase or strategic alliance. It was born from a deeply personal and cultural conflict. Metcalf's violation of Hawaiian customs directly motivated the retaliatory attack that by chance armed his greatest rival at a pivotal moment. Emboldened by his new arsenal and expert advisors, Kamehameha was ready to settle his rivalry with Kahekili and conquer Maui. In the summer of 1790, he launched his invasion. After an initial victory in the east at Hana, his forces, numbering as many as 12,000 men, advanced across the island by land and sea, pushing the Maui army westward towards its heartland. While the aging King Kahekili remained on Oahu to maintain control of his kingdom, his son, Kalanikupule, commanded the defense of Maui. He chose to make his final stand in Iao Valley. Tactically, it was a sound choice. The deep, narrow gorge with its sheer, mile-high cliffs formed a natural fortress, a bottleneck that could neutralize an attacker's superior numbers in a traditional frontal assault. But it was also a sacred place, the hallowed burial ground of Maui's highest-ranking chiefs for centuries. Here, amidst the bones of his ancestors, Kalanikupule would defend his kingdom. This choice, however, proved to be a double-edged sword. The very terrain that offered protection against spears and clubs concentrated his forces into a perfect kill box, making them uniquely vulnerable to the area effect weapons Kamehameha now possessed. The decision to fight in a sacred burial ground also raised the spiritual stakes of the conflict to an unprecedented level, making the outcome not just a military victory or defeat, but a judgment of the gods themselves. On the third day, Kamehameha unleashed his secret weapon. Under the direction of John Young and Isaac Davis, his cannons opened fire. The Maui warriors had never faced such a weapon. The thunderous roar of the guns, the smoke, and the horrific carnage shattered their lines. The cannon, known as lopaka, or the red-mouthed gun, was devastatingly effective in the narrow valley, turning the natural fortress into a death trap. The slaughter was immense.
The wailing of women and children who had taken refuge on the high cliffs echoed through the valley as they watched the massacre below. So many warriors were slain that their bodies blocked the flow of the Iao stream, giving the battle its unforgettable name, Kepaniwai, the damming of the waters. The river, it was said, ran red with blood. Though Kalanikupule and the high-ranking royal women escaped over the treacherous mountain passes, his army was annihilated. It was one of the most bitter and brutal battles in all of Hawaiian history. The battle's name itself is a powerful piece of historical memory. The damming of the waters is not just a description, but a legend that encapsulates the shock and horror of this new form of warfare. It signifies a violent break from the past, a level of carnage that was previously unimaginable. This name, carried by word of mouth, would have served as a powerful tool for Kamehameha, a chilling warning to other islands of the consequence of resistance. Despite his crushing victory, Kamehameha could not immediately consolidate his control of Maui. Urgent word arrived that his cousin and chief rival, Keokuahu'ula, had taken advantage of his absence to raid his home territory on Hawaii Island. Forced to abandon his campaign of conquest, Kamehameha returned home to quell the rebellion, leaving the future of Maui uncertain. But the campaign had a final, crucial outcome that would prove as decisive as any cannon. On the island of Molokai, Kamehameha intercepted the fleeing Maui royalty. There, the dying chiefess Kalola, grandmother of the 11-year-old Keopulani, made a brilliant political pact. She offered her granddaughter, the highest-ranking chiefess in all the islands, to Kamehameha as a future wife. This was not a surrender, but a masterful act of diplomacy. The marriage secured peace and gave Kamehameha a legitimate, sacred claim to the lineage of the Maui kings, effectively absorbing their mana, or spiritual power and authority, into his own. The Battle of Kepaniwai was not the final battle in the unification of Hawaii. Years of conflict still lay ahead before the last island, Kauai, would peacefully submit to his rule in 1810. But it was the decisive turning point. It proved that traditional Hawaiian warfare was no match for modern firepower. More importantly, it demonstrated Kamehameha's unique genius, his ability to blend the brutal force of new technology with the shrewd diplomacy of ancient tradition. He did not simply conquer, he absorbed. He used foreign tools to achieve a traditional Hawaiian outcome, the unification of the islands under a single paramount chief. This synthesis of force and legitimacy set in motion the events that would end centuries of inter-island warfare and give birth to the unified kingdom of Hawaii. Today, the waters of Iao Stream run clear once more. The valley, once a sacred burial ground and a bloody battlefield, is now a place of remembrance, a testament to the brutal, transformative events that forged a nation.